Hello ladies, NBs and gentlemen. Thank you to Anubis2814 for tagging me in his recent video, A Breed of New Denialists. Here is my video. I wholeheartedly agree with a lot of the points Anubis brought up in his video. He asked that everyone tagged discuss one of the following. 1. Sagan's rules for skepticism and debate. 2. The humanist manifesto. 3. Cognitive biases or limits of the brain. 4. Limitations we all have in the division of labour on science. 5. The peer review process and how essential it is to trust the process and defer to the scientific consensus when the subject is beyond your level of competence. 6. The importance of being okay to disagree and to disagree civilly and understand change doesn't come overnight, but basic etiquette can get you both to the real truth as opposed to putting up barricades and hurling flaming insults at each other. 7. Communication techniques. 8. The importance of humility in skepticism, science or communication. I already have a video on humanism in which I explain both the difference between humanism and religion and the difference between humanism and other atheistic worldviews, so I will link that below, and in this video I will discuss the importance of humility in skepticism, though I'll also be straying into the realms of the importance of peer review and cognitive bias. My time discussing religion and politics on YouTube make it very easy for me to aptly describe a skeptic by what they are not. A skeptic is not born, a skeptic is made. Skepticism is not something human beings are naturally inclined towards. If you think you were born skeptical, you weren't, and you are very unlikely to be a good skeptic now. Being skeptical is hard work and requires one to fight against many aspects of their nature, such as any number of cognitive biases. One example would be in-group bias. As a social animal, you are very naturally inclined to be biased towards members of your own group. All your instincts tell you to take their side, no matter what the evidence to the contrary. The reason some people believe they are naturally skeptical is due to a cognitive bias called naive realism, the belief that we see reality as it is, objectively and without bias, that the facts are plain for all to see, that rational people will agree with us, and that those who don't are either uninformed, lazy, irrational, or biased. This position obviously lacks humility and is obviously not skeptical as a result. The problem with believing oneself to be naturally skeptical is that you start measuring arguments, ideas, and views against your own prejudices and preferences instead of trusting peer-reviewed literature and academic methodologies. Essentially, the naive realist thinks thusly: I am a skeptic, I don't agree with this person's argument, therefore this person's argument cannot have been arrived at skeptically. A skeptic is something a person should aspire to be rather than simply something they brashly declare themselves to be. To do the former is to adopt a position of humility. To do the latter is to succumb to naive realism and run serious risk of resting on one's own laurels. A skeptic is not someone who relies on common sense. To use common sense is to measure something against your own personal experiences. This works fine so long as we are working within the realms of our own experience. But when we are trying to form accurate models of the world at large, it is of no use, as the majority of this lies outside of our own experience. To assume your own personal experiences are an adequate tool is to again succumb to naive realism and to be found lacking in humility. A skeptic is not a conspiracy theorist. Conspiracy theorists often fancy themselves as skeptics, but what they are, in fact, is denialists. This is one of the reasons I loathe the term climate change skeptic. A skeptic lacks belief in something because they haven't been presented with sufficient evidence, not because they chose to dismiss an abundance of evidence on the unsubstantiated notion that it has been forged by agents of some sort of conspiracy that has infiltrated academia. This is what we see with climate change denialists who dismiss evidence of anthropocentric climate change, claiming a conspiracy among climate scientists to hide the real evidence in order to secure funding. With creationists who dismiss evidence of evolution, claiming a conspiracy among biologists to hide the evidence of creation, either to secure funding and or because they are pawns of Satan, and with anti-feminists who dismiss evidence of things like the gender pay gap, claiming a conspiracy among the social sciences instigated by feminists as part of some evil misandric scheme to take over the world. I did a video not long ago on what I think people should do if they have legitimate concerns that there is corruption going on within the peer review process, which I shall link below. In short, the answer is to take the issue up with the academic community, as they are the people who can do something about it and would need to do something about it. Squabbling about it on the internet is pointless, and notably all people with such suspicions ever seem to do. Peer review is the best method we have for separating the wheat from the chaff when it comes to academic material, and if you disagree, the onus is on you to provide evidence to the contrary and to propose an alternative and better method. It speaks volumes when an atheist will laugh at creationists for their dismissal of peer-reviewed literature on the subject of evolutionary biology, only to themselves dismiss peer-reviewed literature on the subject of sociology or psychology or philosophy or theology. Show some humility. Accept that there is conflict between your personal beliefs and the academic material. You're probably wrong. A skeptic is not someone who appeals to their own or anyone else's popularity. It really should go without saying, but apparently it doesn't, that what is right is not always popular and what is popular is not always right. Reality is not determined by the popular vote. Using the number of upvotes or downvotes on a YouTube video, for example, as a gauge of its validity is not skeptical. Rather, it is a sign that you're allowing the group to do your thinking for you. Show some humility and don't succumb to the temptation to simply gloat about the popularity of your own position. Theism, for example, is globally a lot more popular than atheism. As such, an atheist like Thunderfoot should know better than to boast about how many upvotes his videos have compared to people he doesn't like, as though it means something, but he evidently doesn't, and neither do his very large number of supporters. Those are some of my thoughts. I'd be interested to know what people think. If you disagree, try to express your disagreement in a constructive manner rather than foaming at the mouth, yelling at me to be more rational without a hint of irony. If you have a lot to say, a video response would be preferable to an essay-length comment. I've been asked to tag 3 other people, so I shall tag Zenestrad1, CaptainMikul, and although he hasn't made a video in a while, I'd be interested to hear from ConferenceReport. Thanks for watching.